Hello and welcome to an episode of the Weekly Dartscast. Alex Moss here, back with our second episode this week in our Darts Legend series. On Monday we brought you a chat with Shane Burgess, and today delighted to bring you another guest in the Darts Legend series. This is a player who hit the first ever 9-darter at a World Darts Championship way back in 1990, and even now still appearing in the big events, appearing in World Championships and World Cups. Here's our chat with Paul Lim. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the Singapore Slinger himself, Paul Lim. Thank you very much for the time, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm pretty fine. Yeah. Well, like I said, in Hong Kong, it's been tough. Everything's closed here. The bars are still closed. I have started my bar business, and it has been closed for a month now. So it's kind of devastating. But otherwise, it's still okay.
Well, we're starting all these interviews that we do with the Darts Legend series by going right back to the beginning. And for you, where did it all start for you in darts?
Actually, started in England. When I actually was doing my 706 City and Guilds, doing my apprenticeship as a chef in Westminster College and Battersea College anyway. So that's how it started. Playing darts with a group of friends, a chef, and we go to the bar, and that's when I first picked up my first game of darts there.
What sort of time was this? How old were you at that point?
I was 21 years old.
You go forward 7 years then, and you're making your debut in, at the time, the biggest tournament in darts, the BDO World Championship. Talk me through that journey from that point, starting off playing, to then getting to the World Championship.
Oh, actually, yeah. From those period when I actually was playing in England, well, really, it's not much of no competition in terms of tournaments. It was just casual. And when I went back to Singapore after my 7 years in UK, in England, I kind of moved back to Singapore and then took up my first job there as a chef there and all that. It's back in Singapore, and that's when I actually started to get more involved with darts in the Asian what I call that, the WDF, the World Cup, and the World Masters and all that. That's when actually I got involved. But more in Asia first. I won my Asia tournament when I was back then, and then that kind of took me off into getting more involved in international competition. But then by then I was still working as a chef. Then I wasn't full time. I would kind of not work as a chef and just play darts full time, because I wasn't able to support myself then, So, but eventually, I think when the time came after I won my Pacific Cup in Australia in Newcastle, when I won the singles tournament, the Pacific Cup singles, I kind of got to meet with the Americans, because I played Jerry Umberger in the final, and we became friends. And then eventually he said, "Come, move to the US. Come to the US. We have a circuit." That's when it all started. When I decided to say, "Okay, I'm going to give it a shot." Move to the US. And then play the American circuit. And that's when I kind of I would say I was still actually, when I moved to the US, I was still working and playing darts at the same time, because like I said, I didn't know exactly what's going to happen, whether darts could actually support me fully, but the first 2 years went well, because the first 2 years when I was in the US, I was at the top money earner and the number one rank for the first 2 years I was there. So, but then again, because I was only in the US for the first 2 years, they wouldn't allow. I mean, the ranking doesn't really count, because you have to be there for after 2 years, then it counts. Then eventually, after the third year, I represented the US in the US team in the World Cup and all that. And that's when I actually stayed on and lived in the US for probably for another almost 30 years in the US. And I was just playing the American circuit and then getting involved with the before was the BDO World Championship, and then eventually the PDC and all that. So until now, then, so there has been a long 35 years seriously as a dart professional.
Yeah, I mean, your longevity in the game, which I'm going to come on in a little bit to talk about, is unmatched really when you compare it to a lot of the players. But going back to that debut at the World Championship 1982, what are your memories of turning up to the venue and playing in that event for the first time?
Oh yeah, it was. In fact, when I first got involved with the World Championship, I think it was at Jolly's. My first World Championship was in Jolly's. Yeah, I remember that. It wasn't Lakeside then. It was at Jolly's in Stoke-on-Trent, I think. You know, that's how long ago. That was a long time ago. And then like I said, I remember I was pretty well accepted. You know, I mean, in that circle of professional dart players with the Jockey Wilson, Eric Bristow, and John Lowe, Lazarenko, Leighton Rees, Alan Evans. You know, those were the as far as I could remember, those were the pioneers. You know, I mean, and I got involved with those group, and then it was an experience. I was excited, but obviously I was always an outsider because I was probably the only considered Asian representing Singapore, you know, to be there. There's another Asian that was there too. It was the Nicky Varachko, but he actually moved and lived in the U.S. also already, and then he became, like I said, you know, also another Asian. So we were close, and it was an experience because I think that's when I realized. Playing in Asia and winning all the competition I have in Asia in those days, because I think the standard of Asian play was still quite low. It wasn't really high because in terms of competition and averages and all that, it was a big difference. And when I started to play in the UK, you know, in the World Championship and all that, in the World Masters, you know, the Butlin Grandmasters and World Match Play and all that, I started to realize, wow, you know, I'm just among the big boys. So it was always that fear, you know, in the beginning, and I remember that it was tough because, like I said again, it was more of a mental thing, and it was just a learning curve for all those years. And I really feel that if I could turn back time, I think if I could feel the play the way I play right now, I think I would fit in a lot better then, because I think the confidence level through all these years has given me a little edge now. You know, I'm saying to actually perform better in the major tournaments worldwide.
And when we look back to that period, the 80s, of course, you were a familiar face during that time in the World Championship. You played a lot of World Championships in the BDO, and as you mentioned, you came over for some other tournaments as well. What are the memories really that stick out for you during that golden era of darts and playing against the likes of Eric Bristow, Jockey Wilson, John Lowe, people like that?
You know, I felt, looking back at it right now, I think, you know, strangely enough, I think right now, because the money has got so big now, you know, I mean, in terms of the present days, you know, I think everyone is basically more of a livelihood in terms of really because of the money, you know, I mean, the money drives, you know, a different direction of what you want. I think in the early days with those, right, I mean, the money wasn't that big because everybody seems to still have to work and then go play darts. I remember like Alan Warren and Everson and Rod Harrington. I mean, they were still working when they were playing professionally in those era. You know, I mean, Eric Bristow probably was. Oh, he was professional, but I mean, he plays full time. But not a lot of people does really. So I think that group of the friendship. I mean, I think the group of dart players that were together at those time. Well, I mean, I think we were more friends. I mean, we were competitor, but we were also friends. But now I think with what the situation now in the PDC, because of the money being so big, I think everyone is really kind of it becomes too competitive. So I think that's a big difference, I think, you know.
And then we come to 1990, the World Championship, and I'm sure it's a memory that's stuck with you for all these 30 years since it happened. The first 9 darter at a World Championship against Jack McKenna in the second round at Lakeside. What are your memories that stand out from that magical moment?
Like I said again, I mean, even now when people still talk about it, that's the beauty of it. wherever I go, even until this very day, if I happen to be in the UK or in the Europe, the people that are 30, 40 years old were telling me that, saying, "Oh, remember you, the legend, you did that," and I was only a kid then. I mean, it was that long ago. I mean, it's a great feeling, because looking back at it, even when I watch it on video now, every once in a while I look back at myself, because I like to analyze the way I throw from my early days and what it is now. But I still, it gives me goosebumps, really, because I think many people has asked that question, what actually was my kick-off point, my spark of my career for all these years with the darts, right? I think the night dart has more impact of what I'm doing and what I have nowadays than more than actually, because I was a prominent player in Asia, and also representing Asia and playing in Asia, being Asian number one for so many years and all that. I think the night dart was really my what should I say, my spark that lead me to what I am nowadays,
And I watched back that 9-darter before giving you a call, and I was listening to the commentary from Tony Green, and he mentioned that in the previous round of that tournament you'd gone back-to-back 180s, so you'd got close to doing it on that Lakeside stage that week. So when you get the two 180s against Jack and you're on that 9-darter and the double 12 goes in, what's the feeling like when you've been able to make history, I suppose, in darts?
I really as far as I can recollect myself, that when I did, when people talk about that, when I first, the one before Jack McKenna, right, I went 180. I don't know whether I can't remember whether I hit my first triple 20 and then missed after that, or whatever it is, my first 7 darts. I really cannot remember. But I know I hit my first 180. But obviously, when I did that against Jack McKenna on my first 180, I kind of had a sudden flash of basically said, well, I'm just going to play my darts. In fact, I didn't slow down. I think my mind was more set with that throw. And honestly speaking, I mean, it's that moment. I think for any dart player at that moment of doing a night dart, right, is that moment where you don't think of anything else but just the target and look and then just throw. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's exactly what happened when I did my night dart game against Jack McKenna. Was how it was. I didn't panic. That's the thing. It was good feeling.
Yeah, and not just putting your name in the history books, but also the prize for getting that 9-darter, £52,000, and famously more than what Phil Taylor got for winning the whole title itself. In darts terms, at that time, that was a big slice of money to pick up, wasn't it?
It was definitely, yes. I remember. I mean, obviously the taxman took a big chunk of it too. So at that time it was taxed right away. So, but definitely does. I mean, the funny thing is that when I was going for that 180, right, the dollar sign never actually came into my mind, because I didn't think that, I'm going to hit this. If I finish this 141, I will get 52,000. No, that never came to my mind at all. The thought of just that is that I'm just going to throw the 141 finish. So I think that helped, because if I start thinking about the money, I think I'm probably going to miss anyway. So I think it's concentration. I think it's at that moment it just came at the right time. And it was a huge prize money then, because I remember that was also first year that Phil Taylor actually played in the World Championship. That was his first World Championship win. When I did my night dart too. That's the first time I met Phil Taylor anyway.
And it's a couple of years later then really we see the split in darts, the players, including Phil Taylor, break away to form the WDC, now the PDC. I mean, for you weren't, I don't think you were based in the UK at that time, but what are your memories really, or recollections of that time, and what would be the split in darts?
Yeah, in fact, that time I was living in the US already. So that split, I mean, it was painful, because I was very, very close with the BDO, with Ollie Croft, Lorna Croft, the Croft family. I was really, really close to them, because me and Nicky Varachko were always staying at their home. I mean, I even cook a Chinese meal for the whole family when I was there. I mean, they were really nice to me. And then when this thing, the breakaway from the BDO, when the PDC started, I was put in that line, whether should I cross it and go to the PDC with the group, so the Americans players got together, that time was, I think, was Dave Kelly, Rick Nye, Tony Payne, Jerry Amberger, and those. We were that group, with Larry Butler too, and we decided we should go to the next step, because I think at that time, it's a shame to say that the BDO was really going on a backward in terms of professional tournament. They were cutting down, and that's the reason why that sparked off that group of players wanting to do something, and create more professional tournaments out worldwide, or in the UK or Europe, and it was painful. I remember Ollie Croft and Lorna Croft, actually they called me up. I was in the US, and they heard that I was moving to the PDC side, and they actually called me and said that you sure you want to go, because they don't want me to go and things like that. But then because I think at that time I was kind of caught in that moment, that I think the right step is to actually to create, hopefully with this group of players, we could create a channel into that more. There'll be more professional tournaments and more televised tournaments and all that, and I have to sadly I have to turn it down with Ollie, and went into PDC. I never regretted it, but like I said, it's a shame, that it has to be that way. But that's how it goes. So and I cannot say whether it's that I'm glad that I left, but I think at that moment, I think it was the right choice.
Yeah, definitely, and we've seen what the PDC has become now. Looking in 2020, it's a massive organisation now. But looking back to those early days, of course, you played in the first World Match Play '94. You played in a few of the early World Championships in the PDC as well. What do you remember really about that early days of the PDC? Obviously, they're a start-up organisation at that point, trying to get themselves going. But what do you remember about that?
Oh, I remember it was tough, because, like I say again, in most of the tournament, I remember when I used to play in the BDO, the World Championship, and the Battling Grandmasters, or the World Match Play. Basically at that time, it was all my travel expenses were paid. Were for the overseas players, were paid and supported by the BDO or whatever organization they have with the sponsors. But then when we moved to the PDC in the beginning, I remember that we have to find our own airfare, our own hotels, and we have to go there on our own expenses. And the prize money wasn't that big in the beginning too in the PDC. And but like I said again, it's a gamble. I mean, to me, it was a gamble. Even when they first started, the PDC prize money wasn't big at all. But we do understand that, because I think that if it works and the program gets bigger, there'll be more sponsors coming in, and definitely that's what happened. It eventually led to what we all thought that's going to happen. Of course, with Barry Hearn being the mastermind behind this project, like I said, I'm pretty sure Barry Hearn is a calculated gambler. He gambled on this, and his calculation is that the percentage is high for him to be successful, and it did. It paid off anyway. So with his prediction of what is going to happen to the PDC, actually happens. But obviously, the players is a big part of it, because we actually took a chance and moved with them, and moved over to the PDC. And it paid off for those guys in the early days too that moved over, but not a lot of them are left in there anymore. I mean, I think most of the people that actually originally went aren't really playing anymore. I mean, like Rod Harrington and Peter Iverson and Alan Warner. I mean, they all actually work for the PDC now. I mean, not Peter Iverson anyway, but they actually becomes part of the organization, which I think they deserve it. I think that's good, because they were the pioneer of the PDC, starting up, with what lead to this, what happened this present day. So
2002 is one of your last World Championship appearances before that 11-year break before we see you on the Alexandra Palace stage. I mean, during those 11 years, of course, you're still playing back in America, and then a little later on we're seeing you playing more soft tip events in Asia, really. Talk me through that time. What was your thinking, really, of playing darts more based back at home?
Yeah, I think at that time when I was playing, still playing the American steel circuit, the steel darts, whatever there is anyway. But the soft tip was a sudden thing that happened. I mean, it was then when the company called Medalist, and they were one of there were many different soft tip company, but they actually kind of got a hold of me and wanted to use me as an ambassador to see whether I would. I mean, I do enjoy playing soft darts when I first started. I kind of thought it was too easy in the beginning, but then obviously it was easy because the target is bigger and things like that. But then eventually, when I got involved with them, they put me on the payroll, and the payroll was pretty good. And my job is to open up market and actually to understand more of the soft tip industry and what it leads to. It's more like a business anyway. That's the reason why. So I became their key guy. One of the ambassador, and I traveled over to Asia, and that's when we moved soft tip into Japan, which was the first country we actually implanted soft tip into Japan, and it actually took us about 2 years. And suddenly, boom! I mean, Japan was just crazy over soft tip, and then because of being involved with them, I really had no time at all to actually be involved with any of the major PDC or the steel tip circuit in the world. I mean, and furthermore, most of the Open I can't even play. When I remember those times we were banned already. So the World Cup. There was I can't play the Singapore Open or whatever Open there is, right? I can't really play because anything that is involved with the WDF linking to the BDO, we were all banned from playing. We can't play. There's no British Open. I can't play the British Open. So that kind of pushed me more to concentrate more on my soft tip. And I went on. I mean, I still play a few steel tip tournament if there is a chance, like if I'm back in the US or whatever it is, But then again, most of the time I was in Asia, and I opened up the market in Japan, Singapore, Korea, and then Hong Kong and things like that. So then I became kind of more involved as a promoter and a market opener, for soft tip for the Medalist company. And then eventually, 10 years ago, Darts Life Japan got an interest of me, and they offered me to move to Hong Kong to actually help them to look, as a consultant. And they treat me well, so I stayed with them. Now this is about 11 years now with them. So and then they actually allowed. Funny thing is that this company allowed me to actually be involved with steel tip, because in Hong Kong I play a lot of steel tip because it basically have a steel tip organization and things like that, and then involving the WDF. So I started to play a little bit more steel tip, and also a few tournaments which they actually never stopped me from going, because they basically is publicity for them too. So, and then I remember the early days Darts Life, when I went with Darts Life, I was in Hong Kong with Stephen. We actually got involved with the PDC too, being a sponsor for the PDC. Darts Life was involved also. So we did a bit of promotion there, and hoping that there will be a crossover and the link, things like that. So that's how we brought soft darts Life into UK in the early days,
Yeah, and we've seen you have a lot of success playing the soft tip circuit over in Asia. And I mean, one big win has got to come 2011. You become a world champion at soft tip. I mean, that's a massive achievement, regardless of steel tip or soft tip.
Yes. I mean, it was the first grand final anyway, the world, and it was the first one of its kind, where actually it was tough, in a sense of getting people to understand what the goal was. I think it's no different with what PDC first started too. Nobody knew actually exactly what PDC is all about. But I think it's about creating a circuit, a tournament circuit, where actually there will be people chasing for the prize money and becoming the best in the world and to be among the elite of professionals. I think the world in soft darts is just that the world tournament it's called anyway. I mean, it's the same thing. So we created a circuit, traveling, different countries in Asia in the beginning, and now obviously it has go to France, and it's going to be in Spain and in UK, and then so it's worldwide now anyway. I think soft dip. There are many people that play soft dip, but I think professional in comparison to soft dip and steel tip, I think there's still a big difference, because I think I don't think anyone is going to catch what the PDC has done. It has really gone into the level of what I call like the PGA, the same thing. Although I don't think no one else can actually be as big as a PGA in golf, as just like the PDC in darts now. But the soft tip, like I said again, the only difference is that it's a shame that the soft tip is more of a business in a sense. Of course, PDC is a business too, but this one is all based on the manufacturing of the machines. And there's so many different manufacturers, and that's the reason why the unity between this manufacturer of that machine can never happen. And that's the reason why I think it's still very secluded, where we have our world, but yet not a lot of the players who plays in the other machine will actually come and play because of contract, because of publicity. They're not allowed to because of their contract and sponsorship and all that. And that's a shame, really, Whereas a PDC, no. I mean, if you're the best player, if you're a really, really good player, I mean, you can go and play the PDC, So I think that's a big difference.
Just circling back to the PDC, then in more recent years we've seen you play World Championships, and just want to touch on the PDC's World Cup as well. You've formed a great partnership with Paul Lim for Singapore, some great memories over the last couple of years, beating Scotland team of Gary Anderson and Peter Wright, yourself beating Rod Cross, the world champion at the time, with a 100+ average. What's it like turning up to the World Cups with Harif and putting on that Singapore shirt and being able to pull off some big wins against top players?
I think it was, first and foremost, I really enjoy the World Cup format. I really, really do. And plus with Singapore, I mean, with Harif, I've known Harif for a long time. I mean, I remember when I was playing in Singapore in the early days, I mean, he was only a kid. I mean, and then eventually when I left, I mean, he in his junior, he has actually gone to England and played in the world, I think the World Youth or something like the Widmar World Youth, and he actually won that. I'm saying that. So he is a good player and is competitive too. Playing with him, actually, in fact, because I know him so well and I know the family so well, mom and dad, we get on well together as friends. We're like brothers anyway. I mean, we are not related, even though we are Lim. But we just in surname, that's all. But we actually enjoy and we respect each other, skills. I mean, he respect me, I think, because I'm older than him, so I'm like a big brother to him, So we get on really, really well in that sense, as friendship and as a teammate also. So I think we play well together, complement each other. And I really enjoyed the World Cup because of its format too. And I wouldn't say we are lucky, but I think we did well enough to go through those wins when we needed to, and that has actually put some sort of light in the steel darts in Asia. It sparks off a lot of the Asian countries watching us playing that give them a bit of hey, the Asians are in the they can do this, and it actually gives them a lot of hope. And I think that's what we need, because I believe there are a lot of good players in Asia, but we just don't have that opportunity as much as what it is happening in Europe. I reckon if I were to live in Europe or UK, I would definitely be chasing the circuit in the Europe and UK, but I can't because of my job. I can't do that. Not a lot of people can actually do that. But now we have one guy, FB Liam. I'm sure he's doing pretty well. You know, he actually, we have friends, you know, Hong Kong. You know, he plays for Hong Kong team. We went to Hong Kong World Cup team last year together. And I've told him as a friend, and I told him, I said, you know, you should give it a shot. If you ever get your PDC tour card, you should go there and stay there and play and see how far you'll go. Because I think the experiences that you're gonna get there is you just can't buy it with money. You know, I mean, you got to be there to play it. So he's actually there now, and I think he's gonna be there for the whole year. You know, previously it was the Royden Lam. I mean, he has won the tour card twice now. You know, but he never took the opportunity of going. So I felt it's a shame because I did talk to him also. And I asked him, I said, why didn't you? You know, I mean, there was his reasons. But then again, I always believe that if you want to become a professional dart player and you go and get a tour card and you got it, then you should give it a shot, you know what I'm saying? And that's just a shame, really, that he didn't, you know, for his own personal reasons, which I don't understand. But then if he can't, then he shouldn't even be going for the tour card. Doesn't make sense at all, you know? So that's what happened.
And I've got to ask you as well about a moment that happened a couple of years ago at the World Championship, PDC World Championship yourself against Gary Anderson, and coming so close to getting that 9-darter. I mean, what was it like on that stage, going for that 9-darter, going for that double 12? I'm sure there must have been some memories from 1990 coming up at that time.
I tell you what, this second one, the one with Gary Anderson, actually haunts me. Because like I said again, it really haunts me, I swear. Because I felt that, you know, I was there. I mean, it really, the last dart, my first 8 dart, I think was more, I should say, I was so focused. But somehow or other, on my last dart, it actually, I panicked a little. I think I panicked a little bit. That's why I pulled it down. You know, everything was a flow, and then I pulled my last dart. It was down. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't far off, but I still pulled it down, and I knew I pulled it down. But again, in my mind, until now, right, this couple of years now, 2 years, 3 years now, right, you know, it's still, people talk about it, and every time they talk about it, my heart miss a bit every time, you know, it hurts, you know, because if I would have done that, I mean, right, I mean, of course, it's if I would have hit it, my record will never ever be broken with the same person that actually did the 9-dart in the BDO World Championship and also the PDC World Championship, you know. So, because nobody has done it. No one has ever done that, you know.
Definitely, and got to ask you a couple of questions as well about the Asian tour that we've seen introduced by the PDC over the last couple of years. You've played in some of them as well. What's that been like, seeing the PDC venture into Asia and put on this tour now as well?
You know, like, I think it's a great move by the PDC, because if the PDC is going to be considered, if it's going to be considered a world, it's a worldwide recognition, right? It cannot be just about Europe and UK and that's it. I mean, it has to be the world, and they are giving and they know that, and now they are bringing the PDC into Asia, and I think if the Asia, which I believe in our second year now, third year coming, it has actually created, it's like a step for us to actually understand what is about professional darts, what is competitive darts, you know, throwing, what is the averages that we need to actually maintain to be up there, and how, you know, and the chance to actually compete in the World Championship, and that is our only true qualification. That's our only way to get into the World Championship, is to actually play well in the PDC Asia Tour and represent Asia. And I think it is the best move the PDC ever done for Asia anyway. And I believe it's going to grow too, because we missed it this year. It's a shame because of the COVID-19. You know, I mean, everything has went on a stop. But there were so many people really looking forward to actually playing the tour this year again, and then to be part of the World Championship again this year. You know, and no, but definitely, it is the best the best thing that ever happened in Asia is the PDC coming in with the Asia Tour.
And for you personally as well, you're in your mid-60s now, and I touched on earlier the longevity that you've had in this sport. I mean, what's been the key to that, and how much longer would you like to play for at this level?
I think I really don't know when I'm going to stop, because I have never ever thought about retiring. I swear I still practice every day, and I am looking forward to go to tournaments, and I want to go play tournaments because I felt I'm playing better now. In actual fact, for the last, since the COVID, the virus thing started, right? We are unable to go anywhere. All I do is I practice and I practice, and I do. I'm not lazy at all. I know that. So that is the reason why I'm so looking forward for it to be open again and I go play competition again. I believe that I still have the passion, not just as a job, because I think a job you can get tired. If it's just a job, I think I would retire. I will quit from it. But I think it's because I still enjoy the job. I still enjoy darts. I still enjoy teaching the students and the juniors and all that. We do a lot in Hong Kong, and I'm trying to do a lot in Singapore too, to actually teach the younger generation. And I felt that I have that passion with darts, and I think in competition, and not just about competition, and also involved in terms of darts itself as the sport. I definitely will go on until one day which I felt that I can't go on anymore. So I really can't tell. I hope I probably when I'm 70 years old, maybe in another 4 years, I will still be competing. Hopefully my health holds up. That's why I'm thinking it's one of the most important things for me right now is to stay healthy. And obviously, this is one thing is I have to look after myself, and I felt that I got to be more careful with my health. That's all.
Definitely, and we've got a few questions that have come in from some people involved in darts that you might know. The first comes from Wayne Mardle, who says, have you noticed anything about the way you throw that's changed over the years?
Yes, I have. Yes, definitely. I have changed. I definitely have, because that's why I felt that I have, when I keep watching, I try to do the perfect way of throwing darts, because I believe in any sport, the fundamental, the basic mechanic, it's just like golf. There is a perfect way of a golf swing, and darts is the same thing. There is a perfect way of throwing darts, but it's just that sometimes a lot of people have their own style. Just like Jim Furyk in golf. Okay, he is a great golfer, but he has got a very unorthodox swing, right? But there is that people like the Dustin Johnson. He has got a perfect swing. I'm saying things like that. That is fundamental, and that's the same thing too. So I realized that when I was throwing in the early days, and what I'm throwing now, I actually record myself, and I actually see the differences, what I want to do. So I've changed a little bit as it goes along. I have definitely, but I'm definitely. I know that I believe that I'm actually going on a better way of throwing darts. That's the way I feel anyway.
Next one comes from the referee Russ Bray, who says, who has been your hardest opponent?
Funny enough, it's Mike Gregory. In the early, I gotta say it. In the early days, it was a Mike Gregory, because this is one guy that I've played few times, and I never have a chance to beat him at all. Okay, and now obviously in this era, I think I would probably say Van Goghen and Phil Taylor.
The next one comes from Kay Fan Lung, who says you've represented 4 countries in the WDF World Cup: US, Papua New Guinea, Singapore, Hong Kong. What does that feel like?
Well, like I said, a lot of people kind of when they hear that, first thing I'm sure people are sort of think, what the hell? How can a person represent 4 countries? But actually, my circumstances that I represented each country was actually not because I hopped to another country to represent, but because there was a reason behind everyone. And like when I was in Papua New Guinea, that was my first country that I represented. Okay, that was because Singapore wasn't affiliated to the World Darts Federation that time, and I was living in Papua New Guinea, and I was working there. And the WDF ruling was when you're in the country for 3 years. And you play with a thing, you can actually represent that country. So that was how I represented Papua New Guinea. Then after that, when I actually moved back to Singapore, then I played for Singapore. Then I moved to US, and I played. I lived in the US for more than those years because I was playing the circuit there, and that's when I represented US. And then eventually I moved to Hong Kong for 10 years now. So Singapore has got no more steel darts, so I can't. No more steel darts. World Darts Federation affiliation with Singapore Darts Association. So I'm in Hong Kong, and I played with the Hong Kong, and I live here for 10 years now. And actually, in fact, I lived in Hong Kong for 10 years, but only the last year was the first year I represented Hong Kong, because I haven't played in the World Cup for a long time, over what, I don't know, 15 years, 20 years or something like that, you know. So that's what happened. Not because I wanted to, but it happens.
Next one comes from John Lowe, who says to ask about your cooking skills. You once took him to a restaurant that cooked snake.
Oh, no. Actually, no, it's not snake, it's eel. It's different. Tell John Lowe there's a difference between an eel and a snake. Okay? No. Actually, we do eat snake, but then I don't cook them. No, I cook eel, that's not.
Fair enough. And we've had a few asking about your appearance in the Yakuza 6 video game. There's not many dart players that can say that, is there?
Oh, yeah. The video game? Yeah, it is. It's a Yakuza game that is by Sega Sammy. Yeah, that's live. Actually Sega game. So I'm glad I was in that game. It was pretty good. Yeah, it was fun. I did enjoy that. It was good.
And last one, we're finishing up all our chats that we have with the legends with this one, and it could be a difficult one to answer, but when you get asked what's your favourite moment being involved in darts, what would you say?
My favourite moment? Definitely the night that... What are you talking about? Favourite moment? Wow. I think it's still the night that, definitely. The BDO World Championship at Lakeside.
Paul, it's an absolute honour to chat to you. Thank you very much for taking up so much of your time to have a chat with us, and we wish you all the best for the rest of the year, and hopefully we'll see you at the PDC World Cup in a few months' time.
I hope so too. Alex, you take care too. Anyway, like I said, it's been tough, but all worldwide, but you just take care of yourself, and I hope to see you one day.
Thanks again to Paul for joining us, and myself and Burton DeWitt will be back next week, sometime early part of next week, with a new regular episode of the show. Hopefully a couple of guests will be joining us as well, looking back on this week of Premier League action and then looking ahead to next week's games as well. So hope you've enjoyed these Darts Legends episodes that we've brought out to you this week, and until next time, hang tight.